Assalamu alaikum. This is Brother Rashid.
Walaikum salam.
Here at Masjid Allah, we're about to do part 4 of Entertainment's War on Family Violence. All right, but first, as always, we're going to start off with the Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Ameen.
So the English translation of that is in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Praise be to Allah, the Church of the Sustainer of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. Thee we worship and thee we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, those whose portion is not wrath and who go not astray. All right. So this is my contact information and my email and YouTube channel, and also 2 other sites where I post videos. All right. So we're going to get right into it, but I want to show you this warm-up first. All right. Okay. So as I told you before, this system studies the human brain and how people think, so they best know how to manipulate us. All right. So I want you to check this out. All right.
To answer that question, we set up a hidden camera experiment to see if this woman would stand up at the sound of this tone, simply because everyone else is. You might be thinking you'd never go along with this. Or would you? After just 3 weeks, and without knowing why she's doing it, this woman is now conforming perfectly to the group. But what happens if we take the group away?
Elaine, please.
Okay, now she's alone. The crowd is gone, and nobody is watching her, except our hidden cameras. What do you
think she's gonna do? You think she's gonna sit there because the crowd left? Yeah. All right, let's see. Let's see what she does.
What do you think she'll do? She's now conforming to the rules of the group without them even being there.
Without them being there.
That's sad.
Okay. But this is what's going on. All right. But now watch.
Now, watch what happens when we introduce another outsider who doesn't know the rules.
Now, this guy he doesn't know the rules at all. All right?
Okay.
What do you think his reaction is going to be?
He's going to be like, what the heck are you standing up for?
All right. So
have a seat, and they'll be out in just a couple minutes. Thanks so much.
What is going on?
Think she'll teach the new guy what to do? We kept the cameras rolling as more unsuspecting patients arrived.
And here comes the sister. What you think she gonna do?
All of the crowd.
All right, let's see. Let's see what she does.
And slowly but surely, what began as a random rule for this woman has now become the social norm for everyone in this waiting room. Here to explain what's going on in their brains is Jonah Berger of the University of Pennsylvania.
This sort of internalized form of herd behavior is part of what we call social learning. Starting at a very early age, when we see members of our group perform a task, our brains literally reward us for following in their footsteps.
When I saw everybody stand up, I felt like I needed to join them. Otherwise, I'm like excluded. Once I decided to go with it, then I felt much more comfortable.
Conformity is how we become socialized, but it can also cause us to develop bad habits or repeat past wrongs.
And it's why even this rebel, who wasn't standing for any of this nonsense, eventually joined the ranks. And the only thing more shocking than seeing how easily conformity affects the way you act is that similar forces are subconsciously shaping the way you think right now.
All right? Powerful clip.
Yes.
Because it shows you what we do. We conform to the group. Even if we know it's not right what they're doing, we conform to be accepted.
Association brings on assimilation.
All right, so now, let's look at the definition of conform. It says to act according to or be obedient to a rule or norm, to be in harmony or accord, right? But now, they did a study in 2023. It was a group of Muslims. This came from, I forgot the name of the actual group that did it, but it says it was assessing the state of the African American Muslim community 2023 National Survey. And it said, according to a survey conducted in 2023, the number one challenge facing the Ummah in the African American community, among others, is division, with the community and lack of sense of community belonging to masses. All right? Now, as I told you before, Allah gave us the solution to the problem. Right? Allah tells us simply in the Quran, as in chapter 6, verse 159, as for those who divide their religion and break up into sects, thou hast no part in them in the least. Their affair is with Allah. He will in the end tell them the truth of all that they did. So Allah is telling us one thing, and man is dictating something else.
Yes.
And who are we going to follow? The dictates of man, or are we going to follow Allah? Right? So, here we go. This quote I found very interesting to the subject. Before you heal someone, ask him if he's willing to give up the things that made him sick. Before you heal someone, ask him if he's willing to give up the things that made him sick. Very powerful statement. All right? Anybody want to say anything to that?
That is so very true. Because, you know, people, as me being a senior citizen, will ask me, why do you have so much energy? Why? And when I tell them all the things that I do, and I say, you don't have to do everything at once. It's one change, one thing at a time. They're not even willing to do that.
Right.
Walk up your hallway, in fact. Do it in the morning. Do it in the noon.
Right.
Do it in the evening. Because some of these senior citizen buildings, the hallways are so long. You'll get a nice workout. You're not willing to do that.
Right.
Today, oh, my legs are not acting right, so I'm not going to move them. Huh?
There's some sort of excuse.
It's always an excuse, but they're not willing.
Right. They're not willing. And see, that's the thing. Allah has given us the prescription. He's given us the advice. But we're not willing to take it.
You have to
So,
leave them alone.
yeah. So Allah tells us, don't have, anything to do with them in the least. And he said that he named us Muslims. Okay? But now let's move on, all right? Some say, when will come the help of Allah? I say, when comes the effort of man? And that's the thing. Allah tells us in the Quran, says, for each such person there are angels in succession before and behind him. They guard him by the command of Allah. Verily never will Allah change the condition of a people until they change it themselves with their own souls. But when once Allah willeth a people's punishment, there can be no turning it back, nor will they find besides him any to protect. So Allah is telling us, until we give effort, until we do what we're supposed to do, start trying to make that change, we won't get that help from Allah. All right? In the King James Bible, Matthew chapter 15, verse 8, it says, "This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me." Okay? And we can use the biblical verses because, you know, we know that their message was tampered with, but there's a whole bunch of truth there.
That's right.
Right? Resurrect. All right? And this is really kind of like a warm up to get back into our discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But resurrect is to raise from the dead, bring back to life. And this is something I did with my students at school. I said, do you think that we'll be resurrected? You think we can be brought back to life? Okay? And then I showed them this. Right? One year and 40 seconds. And then watch. So you see how everything was first dead, right? And it's being brought back as if it was never in that condition. Okay? This is an example of the resurrection. This is an example of Allah bringing the dead back to life. So, in the Quran, chapter 6, verse 111, it says, "Even if we did send unto them angels, and the dead did speak unto them, and we gathered together all things before their very eyes, they are not the ones to believe, unless it is in Allah's plan. But most of them ignore the truth." So Allah lets us know there are people that no matter what you show them, no matter what evidence you bring before them, no matter what you say, they will not believe, because it's not meant for them to believe. Okay? They are so caught up in the programming that they can't come to the realization that, you know, there is a God, right? But now I want you to see this. This is from a news story. And just to show you, this man,
Boy, those tornadoes so terrifying yesterday. Amazing that no one was killed.
I know, isn't it? There were 18 tornado reports, George, 6 to 13 reported on the ground, and 2 major tornadoes striking the area. And as you say, it is shocking that there were no deaths. Thank goodness.
Thank goodness, but the pictures are mind-boggling. Look at these right now. These tractor trailers we're going to show you.
tractor trailers
Flying through the air.
flying through the air like nothing.
They look like Tonka trucks being thrown through the air right there, and then they piled up. There it is right there, right after the massive twisters. They were just flying through the air and twirling.
And entire neighborhoods were torn up. We have the roof ripped off from a home. The entire bedroom looks intact with a flat screen TV still there. Another home there, 2x4s shooting through the walls like missiles. So much of the destruction caught on tape as it happened around 1 p.m. Dallas
And again,
time.
those were deadly weapons, but no one was killed.
We've got complete coverage of the storm and its aftermath.
And this is what these people don't understand. They do not know the power that they're dealing with. And the fact that they're going to have to answer. See, this man is very arrogant. He thinks he's this powerful,
Yes.
you know, entity, but he is nothing. He's nothing. Nothing. Quran, chapter 100, Ayah, or those that won, verses 6 to 11. Truly man is to his Lord ungrateful. And to that fact, he bears witness by his deeds. He's ungrateful, and Allah sees it through his deeds. And violent is he in his love of wealth. This system, people in this system, very materialistic, right? Does he not know when that which is in the graves is scattered abroad, and that which is locked up in human breasts is made manifest? So Allah knows the language of the heart, you know, that their Lord had been well acquainted with them even to that day. All right? Now, yesterday, I tried to show you this video, but we didn't have the sound.
Right.
All right, so now we have the sound, and I want you to hear this. This is Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, which was originally called the Negro Project. It later turned into Planned Parenthood. And this is her describing what she calls the Negro problem. All right.
The Nazi Society for Racial Hygiene. In her praise for the eugenics programs in Germany, Sanger called for the implementation of such programs in the United States, specifically targeting African Americans. The following editorial was published in the 1932 issue of the Birth Control Review.
The Negro problem is one of the most complicated and important confronting America. Whatever the ultimate answer may be, such an attitude brings to light the function of birth control as a necessary agency in its solution. The present submerged condition of the Negro is due in large part to the high fertility of the race under disastrously adverse circumstances. Thus, the question arises, to what extent birth control has had a eugenic effect upon the Negro race?
If any question should remain about Sanger's racist agenda, a 1939 letter she wrote to Dr. Clarence Gamble should remove all doubt.
We should hire 3 or 4 colored ministers, preferably with social service backgrounds and with engaging personalities. The most successful educational approach to the Negro is through a religious appeal. We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is a man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members.
So you hear that? She was wicked. But now Hillary Clinton, I showed you a quote from her saying that, right, gave her accolades and said that she agreed with her vision. Okay? Her vision was to exterminate.
Exactly. But check this out. Someone with even more money and power, Bill Gates.
Oh, yes.
He's a eugenist as well.
Absolutely. But let's go even further. His father was too.
And his grandfather.
And he helped with the Negro Project.
Thank you.
Okay? But now you understand why Martin Luther King Jr. won the first Margaret Sanger Award. Right. Okay. But now let's move on. And I want you to remember that because we are on a little journey. So I'm going to show you some other things that connect with this. All right. And alhamdulillah, Imam Shabazz gave me a little extra time today. So
now. Watch out there.
All right, watch out now. Watch out, man. All right. So let's look at the title of the presentation. All right. So let's define some of the terms. Family values, a plural noun. The moral and ethical principles traditionally upheld and transmitted within a family as honesty, loyalty, industry, and faith. Right? Values held to be traditionally learned or reinforced within a family, such as those of high moral standards and discipline. Okay? And the title of this lecture is Entertainment's War on Family Values, right? A war on those things. So we got to go back to the word entertainment. And we had some discussions yesterday about entertainment, and people were talking about, it's just entertainment, okay? But now let's look. Entertainment, the act of entertaining, agreeable occupation for the mind, diversion, amusement, diversion, all right? Something affording pleasure, diversion, or amusement, especially a performance of some kind. So what they want to do is divert your attention from what's really going on, okay? And that's why we are so proliferated with all of this entertainment, okay? Diversion, an instance of turning something aside from its course, an activity that diverts the mind from tedious or serious concerns, a recreation or pastime, an activity that diverts the mind from tedious or serious concerns. All right? In the Quran, chapter 29, verse 64, the spider, what is the life of this world but amusement and play? But verily the home in the hereafter, that is life indeed, if they but knew. So if we took entertainment, that word entertainment would fit right in here. Yeah. Right? Because that's what entertainment is, amusement and play. So Allah is telling us this life is nothing but entertainment. All right? But Allah tells us that the home in the hereafter, that is life indeed, if we only knew. Now, this is a guy, his name is William Cooper. He wrote the book, Behold the Pale Horse. Okay? This is what he said.
Pale white horse?
I think it's Behold the Pale Horse. But I thought it was Behold the Pale White Horse too, but I think it's Behold the Pale Horse. All right? Because it's talking about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So the pale horse, or the 4 horsemen, right? But let's listen to what he says about entertainment, okay? And I'm going to take this to a certain, so I'm going to go to the 307 point.
And learn. Allow new information to challenge your thought.
Why they pay athletes these fantastic salaries. I was listening to the radio the other day. They just contracted to pay one.
Now, remember, this was years ago. All right, this was years ago, because he was actually murdered. He was actually killed.
Why they pay athletes these fantastic salaries. I was listening to the radio the other day. They just contracted to pay one player on one team $6 million a year. Can you believe this?
And why is that?
It's the Roman circus. What does the emperor do when the people become restive, and when the people are asking questions, and when the people don't like the policies of the emperor? He sends them to the circus. He creates a circus. He builds a giant coliseum. And he begins to throw the Christians to the lions. He has great chariot races and football games and basketball games, all to keep the idiots preoccupied.
And you think about it. How much time do we spend on sports? If I'm watching football, watch the first game, that's about 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
Then if I want to see the doubleheader, that's another 3 or 4 hours. Then if I want to see the night game, another 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So how much time am I spending? I mean, this is time I could be spending with my family.
Exactly.
This is time I could be passing on my values and my traditions to my children. Or servicing the community.
That's right.
Or studying Islam, learning Surah. This is the time that they are taking away from us.
With things that don't mean anything in the scheme of the entire world.
Don't mean anything in the scheme of the entire world. doesn't mean anything to the true reality of why we're here.
So that they don't have the time to learn what the truth is. So they don't ever get smart enough to learn how they're being manipulated. So they don't ever question the emperor. That's why they pay a player on a football team or a baseball team $1 million or $2 million or $3 million a year.
So he'd be shocked.
It is the Roman circus. I know men who don't know anything in the world except who plays third base for the Mets. And they think that's a great accomplishment. And they meet and pat each other on the back and bond and go have cocktails and talk about what this guy that plays third base for the Mets did in last night's game. It's sad. It's really sad.
Is there any room in a kind of society where these manipulations are not taking place for this type of entertainment or any type of entertainment at all?
If people understand that a game is a game, football's a game. But let me tell you something. When 150 of the most powerful men and women in the world can meet in secret in Baden-Baden, Germany, and plot the fate of billions, and nobody even cares about it. But 6 football players go to lunch together, and it's in the headlines across the country. You have a reflection of the society in which that exists. And it is a sick society that is doomed to self-destruction.
So based on that scenario, there's some truth into what these men are looking at.
Absolutely, and that's what makes me so sick, is that I'm trying to wake up a people who on a daily basis are proving the ones that I'm warning you about to be right.
Well, so that even though a minority, there are people out there that you recognize are awake to this, if they don't do something about it, they will lose that ability to be free in that way.
That's correct.
Whether they might think, well, I don't need to worry about it because I know what I know and I'm fine. It doesn't work that way. There's a connection here to everything.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. A nation of people who are willing to send their sons and daughters that they profess that they love to a foreign country to die. And they use the excuse to themselves that they're sending them off to defend our country, and they know damn well that's a lie, are doomed.
Any reactions?
It's amazing.
Right? Okay. Now, this is from a movie entitled Network. And this scene is called Man as Hell, scene from 1976. But listen to what this, I have 2 clips of this movie, and I want you to hear what the man is saying, all right? He might use a couple of profanity words.
Q Howard. I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat.
Isn't this the same problems that we're experiencing in 2024? It's the same thing.
We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crying in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. I want you to get up right now. Get up, go to your windows, open them, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. Things have got to change.
How many stations does this go out on?
67. I know it goes to Louisville and Atlanta. We're not going to take this anymore. Then we'll figure out what to do about the depression and the inflation and the oil crisis. But first, get up out of your chairs, open the window, stick your head out and yell, and say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Interesting clip, right? But now, this was towards the end of it, all right? So I'm going to take this to this minute and 16 mark.
Howard Beale! This tube is the gospel. The ultimate revelation. This tube can make or break presidents, popes, prime ministers. This tube is the most awesome goddamn force in the whole godless world. And woe is us if it ever falls into the hands of the wrong people. And that's why woe is us that Edward George Ruddy died. Because this company is now in the hands of CCA, the Communication Corporation of America. There's a new chairman of the board, a man called Frank Hackett, sitting in Mr. Ruddy's office on the 20th floor. And when the 12th largest company in the world controls the most awesome goddamn propaganda force in the whole godless world, who knows what shit will be peddled for truth on this network? So you listen to me. Listen to me. Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. So if you want the truth, go to God. Go to your gurus. Go to yourselves. Because that's the only place you're ever going to find any real truth. But man, you're never going to get any truth from us. We'll tell you anything you want to hear. We lie like hell. We'll tell you that Kojak always gets the killer and that nobody ever gets cancer in Archie Bunker's house. And no matter how much trouble the hero is in, don't worry, just look at your watch. At the end of the hour, he's going to win. We'll tell you any shit you want to hear. We deal in illusions, man. None of it is true. But you people sit there day after day, night after...
Think about it. He said, we deal in illusions. You can watch a television show, it'll make you cry.
Yeah.
Right? The illusion is so powerful that it can affect your emotions. Right?
After night, all ages, colors, creeds... We're all you know. You're beginning to believe the illusions we're spinning here. You're beginning to think that the tube is reality and that your own lives are unreal. You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube. You eat like the tube. You raise your children like the tube. You even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion. So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
I guess I spoiled the end for you, huh? But the thing is that we can. We're addicted. It's like a drug. We're addicted to it. I told you they call the technology, they call it digital heroin, because we're on our phones and stuff constantly. We don't get any sort of breaks anymore because people have 24-hour access to you, right? That's why you're starting to see so much mental illness all these things happen because we are moving away from the natural way of how Allah intended us to live our lives.
Overload.
Overload.
The human brain can't handle all.
Can't handle it. Now, this is a still from the movie Poltergeist. I think it was 1982. All right? And it was funny, I was talking to a guy one time, and he said, you know the movie Poltergeist, what it was really about? He said it was about the TV taking your children away from you. Remember the little Carol Ann got pulled into the TV? But he said that that's what it was really about the television, you know, coming into your home and taking your children away from you. So the question I pose, would you allow your child to invite a stranger into your home? Most people would say what? No. No way. I wouldn't let a stranger come into my home and interact with my child. But, well, we are letting strangers into our homes, allowing access to their minds. We have no idea who we are allowing to interact with and influence our most precious resource, our children. We are allowing strangers into our homes that are indoctrinating both our children and us with beliefs that are truly anti-God and that are in opposition to His guidance. What is another name for a television show? Yesterday we talked about this, and we said that another name for a television show is a television program. Program, the definition is very important. This is why they didn't want the slaves to be able to read. They didn't want them to know the language because they'd be able to figure some stuff out. All right, but this word program, very important. To insert instructions into a machine or apparatus. Who are the machines? We are. And they're inserting their instructions into us. It says to cause to absorb or incorporate automatic responses, attitudes, or the likes, to condition, to make automatic responses come from what they want to put in us. Our parents programmed us to respect our elders, as an example. To set, regulate, or modify so as to produce a specific response or reaction. This is why they are flooding the airwaves with so many vices, sinful acts, okay? And ideas. And what you don't even know is ideas from Satanists. Okay? The dangers of television programming. Sin is being normalized through this system's television program. Our vices are being normalized through this television program. Okay, what exactly do we mean by a vice? A vice, an immoral or evil habit or practice. Immoral conduct, depraved or degrading behavior. According to the British dictionary, an immoral, wicked, or evil habit, action, or trait. Habitual or frequent indulgence in pernicious, immoral, or degrading practices. Let's look at the Ten Commandments that were given to Prophet Musa, or we know his name as Prophet Moses, but we know his name as Prophet Musa. But let's look at two of them on here. Number 7, thou shalt not commit adultery. Number 10, thou shalt not covet. Okay. Adultery is voluntary sexual intercourse between a married person and a person who is not his or her spouse. Covet, to wish for earnestly, to desire what belongs to another, inordinately or culpably. Here's one of the most popular shows in years passed. All right? Called Scandal. And what was it about? It was about a woman who was in an adulterous affair with the president, right? So this is the basic storyline. She worked as a media relations consultant on Fitz's campaign. Fitz was the president. Her professional relationship with President Fitzgerald Grant III led to an extramarital affair, which she had intended to end after Fitz's inauguration into office. After he won the election, she became his assistant for communications, also known as the White House Director of Communications. They continued their relationship, but just as they revealed their feelings to each other, Olivia realized that Melly, Fitz's wife, was aware of the affair. Olivia then resigned from the White House and formed Olivia Pope and Associates. All right, so this was the basic storyline of it, but it was about adultery. And she was the heroine of the story. So they made the adulteress and the adulterer heroes of this story. All right? Now, they had a show, a company that came out. The company was called Ashley Madison. All right, it was a social networking service, ashleymadison.com. Description: Ashley Madison, or the Ashley Madison Agency, is a Canadian online dating service and social networking service marketed to people who are married or in relationships. It was founded in 2002 by Darren Morgenstern with the slogan, "Life is short, have an affair." Users, 60 million as of February 2019. Created by Noel Bitterman, date launch 2001. And you have to look at the names. When you look at the names, it is very telling, right? Ashley Madison continued. Available in these languages: Chinese, Czech, Danish, all these languages: Portuguese, Polish, Spanish, Turkish, Ukrainian, Italian, Japanese, all over the world. This is available, right?
Wow.
I told you I'm not scared to look at what Satanists say. All right? So in their satanic Bible, they have 9 satanic statements that they live by. And the first one is, they were saying that Satan, or what we call Shaitan, represents indulgence instead of abstinence. He wants you to indulge in these things that, Allah's guidance prevents you from doing, out of concern for you and out of concern for us being able to live here on this earth in harmony with our fellow man, with nature, and with our Creator. All right? But now, here's a commercial. This is an Ashley Madison commercial.
I'm looking for someone other than my wife. Other than my wife. Ashley Madison's right. I'm looking for someone other than my wife.
I'm looking for someone other than my wife. This is the commercial. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Other than my wife, Ashley Madison's right. I'm looking for someone other.
They got the whole chorus. I'm looking for someone other than my wife.
And this is on national television?
I don't know if this commercial, I think, yeah, it did. It was on television. All right? But this is the type of stuff that I'm talking about in terms of programming. Programming. And this one showed a woman, it looked like they played it like she was jogging in the beginning, but she was actually running from a man's wife. Okay? So this is the type of stuff that they are, programming into us. So this is normalizing adultery. Okay? But what does, go ahead, you were saying something.
This is just mind-boggling. I thank Allah for choosing me to be Muslim.
Absolutely.
Because this stuff is disgusting.
Absolutely. But that's the thing. Sometimes we don't realize the blessing that Allah has given us. Okay, and by making us Muslim is definitely a blessing, or making us a righteous person is a blessing. So, in the King James Version of the Holy Bible, chapter Exodus 20, verse 14, thou shalt not commit adultery. So the instructions are for us not to commit adultery. In the Quran, in Bani Israel, or the children of Israel, chapter 17, verse 32, nor come nigh to adultery, for it is a shameful deed and an evil, opening the road to other evils. And we know that when that happens, it destroys a marriage, and it affects the children. It affects everybody involved. Okay. So, anonymous quote: "You are what you eat, or you are what you consume." All right, and think about people that have a steady diet of this stuff. Okay. Anonymous quote on Satanism: "Satanism doesn't mean worshiping a red god with horns. Satanism means taking that which is righteous and natural and inverting it. Most of society is satanic, and they don't even know it." Okay. Powerful statement, but that's what it is. They are doing the opposite of what Allah has commanded us to do. They are making right which Allah has dictated to us, which is wrong. Now, this is how powerful television is. This was in September 12, 2002. Netanyahu. All right. U.S. should attack Iran with TV. It says this is when he was a former prime minister. A former Israeli prime minister Thursday called upon the United States to effect regime change in both Iraq and Iran, prescribing a military invasion to topple the government in Baghdad and the transmission of Ribal television programming via satellite into Persia, where he said the influx of pop culture would prove subversive to the conservative Islamic regime. Citing the hundreds of thousands of satellite television dishes in Iran, Benjamin Netanyahu told the House Government Reform Committee that the United States could incite a revolution against the conservative Iranian clergy through the use of such Fox broadcasting staples as Melrose Place and Beverly Hills 90210, both of which feature beautiful young people in varying states of undress, living glamorous, materialistic lives, and engaging in promiscuous sex. This is pretty subversive stuff, Netanyahu told the committee. The kids of Iran would want the nice clothes they see on those shows. They would want the swimming pools and fancy lifestyles. And this is what we saw happen with what yesterday? Saudi Arabia, right? Interesting. So let's look at the word subversive, because he said subversive. Subversive, an adjective, tending or intending to subvert or overthrow, destroy, or undermine an established or existing system. Iran is an Islamic country, right? Especially a legally constituted government or a set of beliefs. So this is what he meant by subversive. All right. I had gotten this video. It was called The Programming of My Father. Okay. And it was this woman telling the story of how Fox News had kind of changed her father's thinking about life. All right. It was called, The Brainwashing of My Father. That's what it was called. The Brainwashing of My Father. So one of the first rules in brainwashing is repetition. Okay? When you hear a phrase, a statement, a concept over and over again, your subconscious begins to absorb that message. Music and media are the main resource for mind control. The problem is we see them as sources of entertainment versus sources of social programming. This is why we keep seeing all of these shows with homosexuality.
Yes.
This is why the music is repeated on the radio so many times. All this horrible music for our kids that's influencing them with the guns. That's why you're seeing it in all the music videos, the rap videos with the guns and the drugs and the sex and the violence. Okay? Repetition. Because we know you learn through repetition. How do we learn our swords? Through repetition. How do we learn our multiplication tables? When we were younger, through repetition. Right? Big slime.
This way.
Now, this is a certain form of programming. This is called predictive programming. Predictive programming increases the public's acceptance of planned future events. Predictive programming is the practice of government and other higher authorities that use feature films and books to increase public acceptance of planned future events. Sometimes the intended purpose of predictive programming is not to plan for some major social change, such as the establishment of a totalitarian government, but to control the impact of a particular event. But the main aspect of predictive programming, namely mental preparation or mental programming, has been achieved through movies and TV shows. But now watch. I'm going to show you an example. All right? How many of you are familiar with the show The Dead Zone? All right? Dead Zone. This is from, the year was 2003. 2003. All right? Now, I want you to watch this very carefully. All right? Because it's very important for you to see this. Now, let me give you a background of the show. In the show, this guy, he had an accident, and from the accident, he gained the power to be able to see the future. Okay? He would get glimpses of the future. You know, sporadic. All right? And I want you to watch this. Here we go. Let me make sure the sound's not going to blow our ears off, right? Okay, here we go. All right, put y'all seatbelts on.
All right, what's going on? Just let me think about where to start.
Well, he saw something. What is it?
I saw a virus. I think some kind of disease.
Virus? Like what? Like SARS?
I don't know. All I know is that it's highly infectious. It may be fatal. Right now, we could all be infected. If we take this outside, we risk the whole town.
Johnny, how big is this gonna get?
I don't know. We just have to do everything we can to stop this, starting right now, Walt.
He's right. All right, here's what's going to happen. We need to make sure that everybody that's inside stays inside. I'm going to get a few deputies on it. We'll call it a lockdown.
Lockdown?
Well, until I come up with something better.
Term sound familiar? Lockdown. Make sure everybody stay inside. All right?
Walt, no. No, you cannot lock the school doors, Walt.
This is for your family's safety.
Will I get sick too?
Maybe we should wear masks.
Maybe you should wear masks.
What difference does it make? According to you, we've already been exposed. Let's get one thing straight, Mr. Smith. I'm responding to political pressure.
You have no reason to be scared. Let me ask you something, Amy. Animals. You've been around any animals in the backyard, even let's say a skunk, a raccoon. I'm going to swab the inside of your mouth with this little Q-tip.
I'm going to do what? Swab your mouth. Right?
Trying to get a handle on this animal. Damn efficient airborne transmission. Blood tests and swabs aren't telling us much. We know it acts like a virus. It causes high fever and respiratory distress.
High fever, respiratory distress.
Tracking and treating a mysterious outbreak like this would take the CDC months.
We better get started then. Anyone who hasn't been exposed already needs to wear a mask.
China? Isn't that where flu viruses come from?
Yeah.
What do you say? Is that from China? Okay. Remember, this is 2003. 2003.
A lot of viruses come from there.
International flight to China?
That's no coincidence. Whatever it is, it originated in China.
Time is not on our side.
It's like looking for a needle in a needle stack.
We have ruled out all the usual suspects: influenza, SARS, bacterial pneumonia.
How long is it going to take?
Well, it took 34 days to isolate the coronavirus that caused SARS. And
Who? The coronavirus. 2003, y'all.
that's fast.
I'm authorizing a quarantine on everyone who's come in contact with a symptomatic person.
Quarantine.
There's got to be something I can do.
When the enzyme S virus when they were
So the chloroquine. So the chloroquine.
The chloroquine.
This is it. This is your virus.
I'm sorry, but there's no cure for that. Chloroquine, that's an anti-malarial drug.
No. Listen.
What's the drug that they say?
Chloroquine.
Isn't that what they said that they were using? That needed to stop the virus? Chloroquine?
All right, finally.
It suppresses the enzyme.
Welcome back, you damn fool. What happened?
We started everyone on chloroquine, stopped the thing dead in its tracks. Now, the CDC would have figured it out eventually, but not in time.
Wasn't that what we just went through?
Yes, indeed.
Like a script. Like a script. 2003.
That came out.
Yeah. Go ahead, good brother.
I think I believe it was 1988 or 1990. China went through that same thing.
Yeah.
And they made a movie out of it.
Made a movie out of it.
Called
Yeah.
Red Zone.
Oh, it's called The Red Zone?
No, I say after China went through it, they made a movie out of it. I don't think the movie was called Red Zone, but I remember Red Zone was the same thing you said.
Wow. Wow.
Then we go through something, what, 2019?
Yeah.
Right.
2019, 2020.
Very interesting. Very interesting. But that's what we call predictive programming.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, I was at a little training at school, and they told us about this article. I mean, well, we read this article about this African village who's they had a greeting, and the greeting is, "How are the children?" And the response is, "The children are fine." So a person says, "How are the children?" And then the other person's response was, "The children are fine." Okay? Now, how many people agree with this saying? It takes a village to raise a child. All right.
That's how we were raised.
That's how takes a village to raise a child. All right? But now, somebody, when we were going over this article in this training, somebody said that. You know, we were all, yeah. But then I had a question. It takes a village to raise a child. But what if the village is sick?
Can't sick child.
Right. But what if the village is sick? Now, this is an MSNBC host, all right, named Melissa Harris Perry. And this came out a while ago. It says, all your kids belong to the community. Okay? All your kids belong to the community. So, this is Melissa Harris Perry, but this video is called "All Your Kids Belong to the Community." This was a commercial that they would run during, television programming. I was going to say television programming hours, but stays on all night now.
That's right.
Remember, it was a time when television would go off, right? But now we got continuous 24-hour programming. All right, and now this is what she says.
We have never invested as much in public education as we should have because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. Your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
Your children don't belong to you anymore. You're basically renting them. Because for any reason, they can take your child out your home.
You surely can.
Right? If your child is wants to, have sex change and all of this stuff, and you're seen as a bad person if you're trying to, talk them out of that. Okay? So it's horrible the things that's going on, but they think that they own our children. All right. So, you manage your bad. We had a question when we talk about it takes a village to raise a child. But then what if the village is sick? You want a sick village, teaching your child? You want a village that doesn't believe in Allah raising your child? But now, I want you to see this. All right, and we're talking about a school district that wanted to pull these LGBTQ themed books from the library. All right, but I want you to see this. Very interesting.
Three books that discuss LGBTQ themes are off the shelves at Waukee High Schools. The school says the books are under review after parents claim they contain unsuitable content for students. As KCCI's Lauren Johnson explains, there are strong emotions on both sides of the argument.
Does equity and inclusion also include incestuous relationships, child-adult sex, and books that promote pedophilia?
McClanahan is referring to a book at Waukee's Northwest High School Library titled All Boys Aren't Blue. The text describes an inappropriate sexual relationship between the young main character and his much older male cousin. That book, along with Genderqueer and Lawn Boy, have been called for a review by the Milwaukee School Board. All three of these titles described LGBTQ themes. Genderqueer depicted a sexually explicit cartoon one parent displayed to the board.
This is all.
Now, they blocked it out on the news, but yet, the kids are supposed to read it? Isn't that something? It was so bad, it was so horrible that they couldn't show it on the news. But yet, they expect the kids to see it, right?
Also, in the book, Genderqueer at Northwest High School, available for children as young as 14 years old.
The district issued a statement to KCCI saying the titles have since been removed from the shelves for review. Once each book has been reviewed by the board, a recommendation will be made to the superintendent regarding whether or not it will return for students to check out. During that school board meeting Monday, one parent said any child can pick up these books that display explicit content, as their covers can be misleading.
These books may appear innocent. However, when you dig in, you find much, much more.
Genderqueer explains the journey of a non-binary asexual teen navigating their way through their sexuality. And Lawn Boy details sexual encounters the main character has with another male character. While the controversy over these two books isn't anything new, One Iowa says they may play a vital role in self-discovery in kids and young adults.
It's very disheartening because what LGBTQ students and non-LGBTQ students really need in the literature that they consume and the things that they have access to is to be able to see themselves and their peers.
Moet shares it was very eye-opening for him to have access to certain materials when they were growing up. Books that chronicle the experience of LGBTQ youth can help many.
Now, it was interesting because in this one school district, the Muslims and the Christians came together and they got that stuff out. Good. And the thing is that this is what Allah is telling us. We're believers. We're supposed to work together, and then on the day of judgment, Allah will judge between us. But that's what we need. We need the believers, all of us believers together to fight against what's going on. Okay? But I think we're going to stop for the Salah. Turn this on.
You have another 5 minutes before, because we're going to pray at 1:20.
Play at 1:20. Yeah, I still got to make my room through. Okay. You said this doesn't pause, right?
No. Okay. That's to keep on going. Or we can start it up, stop it and start it again.
Okay. All right.
We're going to stop for prayer and then we'll resume after the prayer. Your name's not up to Rahim. You gonna be here for after prayer or you gotta roll?
Yeah, I'll be here.
All right. Get ready to roll out, man. So.
Okay. I'll be ready here.
All right. Thank you.